Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lower Speeds live class. Let's go ahead and get started with some common words. Here we go. Around, reason, myself, found, bring, along, 6, mind, remain, statement, saw, read, leave, special, payment, does, nice, called, heard, town, report, following, left, summer, seem, interested, either, price, reference, used, didn't, probably, coming, general, show, meeting, bank, request, afternoon, question, meet, end, position, subject, address, least, full, 10, asked, effect, according, thanks, stated, factory, Tuesday. All right. Now, I've got some common briefs that we will go over that are in sentences. You're going to hear conversation, initial K, final F or GS, pedestrian, PED, sidewalk is SWAUK, passenger, PAEJ, vehicle, V long EK, veek, and crosswalk, KRAUK, croc. All right, so here are your sentences. The conversation was repeated at lunch. Who was present at the conversation? Their conversation was heated and brief. There were several conversations going on. Their conversations always end in fights. I ended up in 2 tedious conversations. The item made a conversational opening. She replied in a conversational tone. It was a good conversational topic. The pedestrian has the right of way. A pedestrian should walk defensively. She has such a pedestrian outlook. He watched the pedestrians walk by. The pedestrians were waiting there. The pedestrians were on the sidewalk. A flashing light was at the crosswalk. The crosswalk was not clearly marked. Does Linda always use the crosswalk? There weren't any crosswalks there. That intersection needs crosswalks. They asked for crosswalks by the school. Is there a crosswalk or a sidewalk on that street? John was in the middle of the sidewalk. The sidewalk needs to be repaired. Are they putting in new sidewalks yet? The sidewalks were already very slippery. The child roller skated on the sidewalks. The passenger gate was closed. Bob was a passenger in the car. I would prefer being a passenger. Passengers should not disturb the driver. The passengers were delayed in boarding. We took 3 passengers in the car. Where did you park your vehicle? Did the vehicle pass you on the curve? I went to the motor vehicle department. Robert has 3 classic vehicles. Which of these vehicles is yours? Those vehicles are not suitable. The road is closed to vehicular traffic. All vehicular movement was restricted. Vehicular traffic is prohibited there. All right, moving into a number drill. Here we go. Gross sales, 34,982,002. Dividends paid, 488,149. Net sales, 22,326,831. Additions to property, 1,931,600. Profit from operation, 878,972. Current assets, 16,203,243. Net income, 576,393. Current liabilities, 2,573,984. All right. Moving into some finger twisters. Here we go. Ready? Glee Club, Blue Sky, Hard Drive, Storm Drain, Drill Press, Ground Stroke, Strong Wind, Blunt Sword, Cold Drink, Green Trees, Tree Farm, Steep Climb. Okay, moving into some sentences that focus on initial consonants that start with initial BL. BL, here we go. You blockhead, don't be so blunt. Bluff a little. The blaze blurred his vision. The blender blended the blameless blueberries. Big black bugs bleed black blood. She blundered when wearing a blindfold on her blind date. She sharpened his blade on a block of black steel. He blessed you with blarney when he drank blended whiskey. Bleach and blue the linens. Blackberry and blueberry vines are blooming now. Use blotting paper to blot blotched ink. The blast furnace blew blazing fire. Blythe was to blame because the copy was blurred. Pens can have blue or black ink. Blue point oysters are blissful to eat in blizzards. Bliss, blast, blemish, and blooper begin with BL. She wore a blouse with bluebells, blueberries, and blue jays. Blue jackets don't bluster and blabber. The blimp was blessed on a bleary day. Bleeding black sheep don't like blacksmiths or blackthorns. A bloke won't blink at a bloated blowfly. All right. Now I have some words that end with either final M or final K. Here we go. Ready? Ham hack, ram rack, bum suck, fame pick, Rome sake, loam rake, rim rock, dime dock, trim truck, dream track, cream creek, chime chick, dome deck, team woke, boom lake, womb nook, lame tyke, same lick, lamb lack, bam back, dam deck, cam tack, frame knack, hum trek, came cake, bomb wake, seam sock, beam book, limb click, plume pluck, flume fluck, flume fluke, prim trike, lime hike, ream sick, dumb bake, doom rake, jam bleak, flame flack, room wreck, dim bike, loom hook, comb sack, rum wreck, blame break, tomb fake, deem sock, rhyme dike, crime crook, zoom hick, him flake, room mike, chrome crack, time hawk, home make, limb pike, tame tick, name wick, gleam cloak, maim ache, dame trick. Okay. Now, I've got some medical words. Here we go. These are just words. They're not in sentences, okay? All right, here we go. Vascular, inflammation, orthodontia, occiput, cellulitis, arthritis, nasal, tracheostomy, analgesics, symptom, pilonidal, hypodermic, painful, aspiration, pelvis, metacarpal, sublingual, hernia, cardiology, paraarterial, meninges, ossicle, psychosomatic, temporal, orifice, thyroid. Now, I know yesterday I had a conversation with a student, and we did discuss me spelling out some of the more difficult ones so that you can add those in your dictionary. So let me go back and go over some of these. I won't go over the basic ones that I'm sure you already know how to spell. So let me just go over some of the more difficult ones. Let's see. Analgesics. All right, that's spelled ANALGESICS. Okay, it's like a drug to reduce pain. Okay. Ossicle, OSSICLE. That's like a small bony structure or a small bone. And then we've got occiput, like the back part of your head or skull. That is OCCIPUT. Let's see, pilonidal. That is a hair containing cyst of the skin. Okay, that is spelled PILONIDAL. Cellulitis, CELLULITIS. Tracheostomy, TRACHEOSTOMY. Orifice, ORIFICE. Psychosomatic, PSYCHOSOMATIC. Periarterial, PERIARTERIAL. Let's see. I think that's about it. You guys probably know the rest. Yeah. Hernia, painful. Yeah. The rest, I'm sure you know how to spell. So maybe I'll do that from now on. And when I give you medical words, I'll go back and give you the spellings of the ones that are more difficult so you can add those to your dictionary. All right. So let's go ahead and move on. Let's go ahead and we'll do a little bit of literary. Again, this is, we started yesterday from the O.J. Simpson book, and this is called Confessions of the Killer. This chapter is The Night in Question, and O.J. Simpson wrote it himself, but Nicole Brown Simpson family, they won the rights to this book. So they were able to publish it and make the money, the profits off of it. And they're the ones that changed it to Confessions of the Killer. He had a name for it. It was something like, if I did it, this is how I did it. And then the judge gave the rights to the family. So they changed the title of the book, but they said they kept all of his own words in the book. They said they didn't change anything. So that's what this book is from. And then eventually they took it off the shelves, and it's very hard to find this book. So I knew somebody that had it. So I made a copy of it and, or just a copy of the chapter to read to you guys. So it's pretty interesting. So, okay. So we're going to go ahead and, continue where we left off yesterday. Okay. And I will start at 60 words a minute, and I'll work my way to 80 since it's literary. Okay. All right, here we go. I finished the burger and felt lousy. Let me just back up here a little bit. This is the night in question. So this chapter is actually called The Night in Question. So that everything that led up to that point. It had gone down wrong. When we got back to the house, I went inside and started packing. taking some of my things and laying them out on the bed. Then I went to the garage to get my golf clubs. There were a few dead balls in the bag, so I set them on the driveway and chipped them into the neighbor's yard. I couldn't seem to stop thinking about Nicole, though. Usually, when I pick up a golf club, the world disappears. That's one of the things I like about the sport. But this time, I couldn't get her out of my head. I remember thinking that woman is going to be the death of me. It was probably around 9:30 by then. I figured Nicole and the kids and the Browns had finished dinner and gone their separate ways. As I found out later, they'd eaten at Mezzaluna, an Italian place on San Vicente Boulevard in the heart of Brentwood. Nicole's mother, Judy, had left her glasses at the restaurant, and she'd called Nicole, who called the restaurant and learned they'd found the glasses. Nicole was told that Ron Goldman was just finishing his shift waiting tables, and that he would be happy to drop them at the Bundy condo when he was done. I knew none of this, of course. None of this had anything to do with my life. Not then, anyway. I set the golf stuff aside and fished out my cell phone and called Paula from the driveway. Either she wasn't home or she wasn't answering. I think it was the latter. I called her several times that day to apologize for not taking her to the recital, and it looked like she was determined to punish me. Hell, for all I knew, she was already thinking about moving on. If that was actually the case, I had Nicole to thank for it. The lesson here was simple. It doesn't always pay to do the right thing, especially if you're doing it for people who don't give a fuck about you. Suddenly, I felt exhausted. I was getting old. I could hardly walk anymore. And I'd been told recently that I would eventually have to have both knees rebuilt. Plus, the arthritis was killing me. I was on medication, but there were days when my hands hurt so much I couldn't pick up a fucking spoon. I parked my ass on the low wall near the front door, feeling whipped. I was trying to figure out how it had come to this. I'd been somebody once. I'd had my glory days on the playing field, a number of high paying corporate gigs, many years as a football announcer, and even something of a career as a Hollywood actor. It wasn't over, not by a long shot, but everything seemed more difficult now. It was a little like that business in Alice in Wonderland, where she has to run twice as fast to stay in place. But hey, if that's what it took, that's what I'd do. You don't get anywhere in this crazy world unless you fight for it. And I was willing to fight for it. Still, it seemed like every day it took a little more energy, and Nicole was sapping a lot of my goddamn energy. That got me thinking about family, the meaning of family, and specifically about my own family. My mother and father separated when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and and we, 4 kids, me, my brother, and my 2 sisters, stayed with my mother. She was working in a San Francisco hospital and had been for 30 years, put food on the table, and kept a clean house. My father stayed in the picture, though. The marriage hadn't worked out, but that didn't turn them into enemies. He was always around, and that was an important lesson for me. When a marriage fails, it doesn't give either parent an excuse to disappear. You have to be there for your kids. The way my parents saw it, life wasn't about them anymore. It was about the 4 children they'd brought into the world. And because they felt so strongly about their responsibilities, they made it work. They talked on the phone every day, but it was never about their own shit. It was always about us kids. And whenever there was a problem, they handled it together. If it was a question of discipline, though, my father took care of it. And when I say he took care of it, I mean he took care of it. In those days, there were whippings, and everyone knew it. You didn't go crying to child welfare or any of that shit, because 9 out of 10 times, if you get a whipping, you almost certainly deserved it. Hell, I know I did. All right, we'll stop there. Moving into some jury charge. And this subject here is criminal. So let me give you a word list. You're going to hear administration, criminal law, commission, indicted, grand jury, defendant. And just so you know, indictment is D long IMT. You're going to hear evidence, credibility, believability. Let's see here, motive, standpoint, disinterested, objections, motions, counsel, innocence, and jurors. All right. Now, I am going to read this at 80 words a minute. Okay. All right, here we go. Ready? Under the administration of criminal law, every person charged with the commission of a crime and who has been indicted by a grand jury of this county is entitled to a trial by jury. An indictment is a written accusation by a grand jury charging a defendant with the commission of a crime. You will determine the weight to be given to the evidence presented. You will determine the credibility of the witnesses and the believability of the witnesses who took the stand. Consider their manner, their conduct on the stand, and their motives, if any. Do they have an interest in the case? What is their background? Use any method you desire to determine these things, provided it is from a fair and honest standpoint. If you believe any witness is an interested witness, It does not mean you must exclude the testimony of that person. He may be telling the entire truth, just as one who is disinterested. If you conclude, however, that any witness has willfully testified falsely to a material fact, you have the right to disregard that person's entire testimony, or you may accept that part which you believe and reject that part which you disbelieve. It is the function of the court to preside over the trial, to see that it is conducted fairly and in an orderly manner, to instruct the jury regarding the law, and to rule upon questions of law, and upon all objections and motions made by counsel for both sides. In so doing, I did not intend to convey to you that I had any opinion as to the guilt or innocence of the defendants. You must be guided only by the evidence. You must decide the case for yourself, but you are to do so only after an impartial consideration of the evidence with your fellow jurors. All right. Moving into just a little bit of closing arguments, and then we're going to move into Q&A. All right. I'm going to read this at 100. Here we go. So does that mean that when the shot occurred, Gina was in the room with you? Yes, she said. Were there just the two of you in the room at the time? She said yes. Was Chester Norwood in the room with you and Gina Lee when the shot was heard? She said no. So you believe when you heard the shot, just Gina and you were in the room together? She said yes. Now, it's your testimony. When the shot was heard, Gina opened the door and either went outside or looked outside. At that point, she said yes. When you opened the door, you're not looking into the back, into the field, are you? No, you have to go all the way around, out and down some apartments, and around through the field to get down there. So the shot occurs. Gina opens the door and looks out, and then does she come back into the room? She said yes. Did the two of you, you and Gina, leave the motel? She said yes. Is that when you and Gina were trying to get a ride? She said yes. Now she says something very important. Were the police there ready or already? I believe the police were already there. Somebody was telling us that we couldn't pass that way. What Joanna Hopkins was telling you was that Gina Lee was with her in the room when the shot occurred, not in the field with Hoss Collins or with Chester Norwood. So if Gina Lee was in the room with Joanna Hopkins when the shot occurred, she was not back behind the motel or up on the road, did not see anything, did not see anyone. Joanna Hopkins was the one that said, sure, Gina Lee had a problem. And in Joanna Hopkins' words, her problem was worser than mine. She had a bad problem. Everybody knew that. Joanna Hopkins also said something very important that I want you to ask and to remember in the Martin case as well. She told us that people get money any way they can in and around the Desert Edge Motel, any way they can. When they're trying to get money for drugs, they steal, they trade things, they buy and sell things, anything to get drugs. All right, so we'll stop there. All right, moving into Q&A. This first set is going to just be defense questioning, so just strictly Q&A. Let me give you a word list. You're going to hear carpenter, installation, improperly, scratched, planing, and warped. Okay. All right, so I'm going to read this once at 80 and then again at 100. Okay, here we go. The next item is the front door. When did you first notice that? Shortly after we moved in. In what way is it improperly hung? It doesn't close down at the bottom. I am not a carpenter. If a door is improperly hung, does it close at all? Yes. The door hits the frame. The door hits at the frame, and you have to take your foot and push the bottom in. Is it a wooden door? Yes. That would be a matter of planing down the door. No, it needs replacing. The door is warped and it is all scratched up on the outside. When did you first notice the scratches? When we were making up the same list. Are you talking about the list in your email on August 12th? We made up the list of everything that was wrong with the coach. The next item is that the ceiling of the shower is loose and hanging down. Yes. What do you blame that on? What do you feel causes the roof of the shower to be loose? Improper installation at the factory. Rather than damage in the moving. Yes, that is what I would put it to. I don't make the coaches. All right, so let's do that again at 100. That was at 80. Here we go. The next item is the front door. When did you first notice that? Shortly after we moved in. In what way is it improperly hung? It doesn't close down at the bottom. I am not a carpenter. If a door is improperly hung, does it close at all? Yes. The door hits the frame. The door hits at the frame, and you have to take your foot and push the bottom in. Is it a wooden door? Yes. That would be a matter of planing down the door. No, it needs replacing. The door is warped and it is all scratched up on the outside. When did you first notice the scratches? When we were making up the same list. Are you talking about the list in your email on August 12th? We made up the list of everything that was wrong with the coach. The next item is that the ceiling of the shower is loose and hanging down. Yes. What do you blame that on? What do you feel causes the roof of the shower to be loose? Improper installation at the factory. Rather than damage in the moving? Yes, that is what I would put it to. I don't make the coaches. All right. We'll switch transcripts. And this is the one that we've been working on, and plaintiff is questioning. Okay, but defense does come in. Here we go. Mr. Gailey, I'm going to mark collectively as plaintiffs 1 to your deposition 2 laser copies of photographs that Ms. Powell has produced for me. Do you recognize what's pictured in these 2 laser photocopies? Yes, I do. What is pictured? My home. I can see my neighbor's home and a car parked out in front. As you're looking at the bottom photograph to the left, is that the 3.5 foot section of the wall? Yes, it is. I'm going to mark as plaintiffs 2 a single laser photocopy of a photograph. Do you know what that photograph depicts or pictures? right where the arrow is there? I didn't draw the arrow. That's the way it came. Yes, I can see a part of my quad motorcycle, which is to the right of the wall. So that would tell me that this is the 6-foot high wall to the left side of my property. I'm going to mark collectively as plaintiffs 3 to your deposition, 2 more laser photocopies of 2 photographs. How many photographs? 2. The top photograph, what is that? What? The end of the wall at the front of your house? Yes, it shows the 3.5-foot wall on the left side of my home, where it adjoins to the 6-foot block wall. And then it shows the fence between my house and the wall. And it shows the fence between that wall and my neighbor's home. The bottom photograph depicts what on plaintiffs 3? 3 of the cinder blocks. Looks like one of the uprights. The uprights were how thick? About 4 to 6 inches. Are you talking the thickness this way of the wall? Yes. About 4 to 6 inches. Do you recall whether or not this upright that's depicted here in the bottom photocopy of plaintiffs 3 to your deposition, whether or not these uprights were as thick as the wall? Yes, just as thick as the wall. Is that a bolt sticking out of that one? Yes, it is. And what is your understanding as to why this upright is laying on the ground? Objection, hearsay. No, no foundation. I'll go for foundation. I finally heard my attorney speak, so I thought I was to be quiet. Do I still answer the question? Just if you understand it. What is what now? What is your understanding as to why this upright is laying on the photograph there? Why is this particular one laying on the ground? It's either fallen off or been broken off. You were present when these photographs were taken? Yes, I believe I was. And when the person took these photographs, did you indicate to them that this is the extension that broke or fell at the same time as Daniel did? Objection, hearsay. No, I didn't tell them. So, as we sit here today, you have no understanding as to why this bottom photograph was taken. No. The top photograph on plaintiff's 3 does not. Can I see the originals of these, Mr. Gailey? If we look at the original photograph of the top photograph of plaintiff's 3 to your deposition, does this refresh your recollection as to whether or not there was an extension at that location at the very end of the wall, 6-foot wall? Yes, I believe there was. Do you know what happened to it since it's not pictured in this photograph? The very corner one, I'm unsure if that one had fallen or if I had went back and pulled that off. Because see, after this accident happened, I went to check so there would be no further, nobody else getting hurt or not. I went to check others that were still standing to see whether some were loose or faulty in some way so that nobody else would have an accident. Was that the first time you ever inspected those? Yes. When you observed Daniel crawling towards the back of the house, did you also observe one of the extensions on the ground? At that very moment, no, because did you observe? I was more focused on him. Did you, at some time after the incident involving Daniel, observe one of the extensions on the ground? Yes, I did. How long after? I believe it was either later that evening or early in the morning the next morning. And what did you do with that extension when you saw it lying on the ground? I believe I left it right there where it was, or maybe just scooted it over to lay it flat. And it remained there until when? How long did it remain there? I'm really unsure. I don't know if I finally threw that away or not. Did you, after this incident involving Daniel, then take down the rest of the extensions on the sides? If it seemed at all loose, or if I could really pull on it hard and it felt unsafe, we'll say I went ahead and pulled it all the way off, yes. And on the sidewalls, you never attempted to make the extensions? No, you're talking after this happened, you mean? No, before it happened, on the back walls. The wood was in place between the extensions. Is that correct? Correct. I believe I started on the sides. I started from the back wall coming forward. I think I don't know. I may have put a couple. I think I ran out of wood or something like that. All right, well, that concludes our Lower Speeds Live class. Have a wonderful day.